pretty cool, fun stuff we're going to be doing today. And I do want to do a sound check with my members of the audience out there. Thank you for that. Okay, we have sound. Awesome. So, to repeat, I'm working on a painting here that is one of my desert series, inspired by my trip to the desert in Palm Springs area. And this is of the Joshua Tree National Monument. Last week we got quite a ways into this painting, and we're just now adding some of the actual Joshua trees. A very amazing tree, by the way, one of the oldest species of tree on the planet. And I'm told that some of these trees get to be over 1,000 years old. Imagine that, some of these big ones. They're an amazing tree. Work on that a little bit. I'm going to put some other flora and fauna, a little bit of middle ground stuff, and then I'm going to work on some new techniques we were just talking about. So let's get started. Always think about your palette. Today I've got a palette, I've got two different palettes. I've got one with some neutral tones, and I'll explain my palette a little bit, holding it up so that perhaps you can see it. I have raw sienna and burnt umber white, a little bit of Naples yellow, and some Payne's gray. And I'm still working on this middle ground area. We're going to do a little bit more work on the Joshua trees and make them come to life, and work on the yucca plants a little, and then we're going to work on this rock, which I think will be really fun. Big old boulder over here. Oh yeah. So what I was just thinking about earlier was how I needed to have, like in my mind's eye and in the scene that we're painting, I wanted to have some little desert flora that I've seen over there in the desert popping up here and there. And they're going to be in the form of these little patches. My goal here is to help in the visual of the painting. The eye comes in and give it some depth and some perspective. So I'm going to start by just putting in these little tiny patches of tiny brush of some sort that they are. And I'm just going to start using a brush that's kind of squished up. It's actually a pretty old, not a brand new brush by any means. It's been used a lot. And I am just going to start putting in some indications of these little almost dead, but I don't think anything in the desert's really dead. It just looks that way. So we're going to put a few of those in. Actually, we're going to put quite a few of those in and spread them around the painting. Now they're going to get smaller as they recede into the distance. So as you see here, if I'm putting them in the foreground, hey, a little tip for you, use your pinky finger to kind of position your brush. Helps you kind of get control of it. Try to provide a few tips, but as you may have seen in my my legal disclaimer and warning, caution, you might accidentally learn something during one of these programs, so I just wanted to reiterate that. My lawyers have looked at that disclaimer very carefully and recommended that I warn people about such things. Other warnings include the possibility that you could become greatly inspired by doing this sort of thing. You could begin to want to meet new people, take on certain causes. Could be all kinds of different problems that result. And again, if you're not careful, you might actually learn something. I've been painting for a long time. I first started painting when I was about 15. I was actually drawing when I was about 4 years old. For some reason, I always just enjoyed the process of drawing and painting. There we go. Now we're starting to see some of those little floras that I was talking about, and you might want to be particularly interested in the fact that I occasionally put little surprises in my paintings. For example, last week we talked about a painting, and it was one of my trivia questions, by the way. And by the way, you can actually win paintings done on the Live Painting channel. I've just shipped out. I've given away 2 recently. I have one recipient yet to tell me how they want the painting delivered. I think I'm just going to mail it to them, regular mail, and that was Wisconsin, by the way. Okay, we got some chat going on. Somebody says that this might be their new favorite. I actually love that. I'm delighted to hear that. And the thing is, like my warning state, I might actually be learning something by doing all these paintings. I've done 13 in 14 weeks now. A lot of fun. Pretty cool. There, ooh, I'm liking that. Look at that, how it gives us some depth. But I'm going to get, this looks a little too patterned. I'm going to randomize it a little bit. I'm almost not quite closing my eyes, but I'm just randomizing my flora here a little bit more. Because nature doesn't usually jump out at you in a super symmetrical pattern. In fact, that's why I usually choose, as in this canvas, to create what I call a dynamically symmetrical canvas. Let me explain that a little bit. Symmetry is when things are balanced perfectly. And you can do art that way, nothing wrong with it. I've seen a lot of it. Not to denigrate anyone's symmetrical stuff, but I studied a concept, and I employ it in almost all of my art, which is called dynamic symmetry. Let me explain that a little bit. It has to do with ratios and some mathematics, which are really something that's kind of a counterintuitive, and that is that there could be, and I believe there is, actual structure to what I would call aesthetics and beauty, actual mathematical structure. In other words, people, in my belief, will tend to find things more pleasing if they are constructed to some mathematical principles, which I'm going to describe here in just a moment. Geometric, trigonomic, and mathematical, I might add. Here we go. And these little things just keep receding. All this is that burnt umber receding into the distance, and these little patches of stuff that I see in the desert for sure. I take a lot of photos, so a lot of times I'm inspired by looking through my photo albums, places I've gone and things I've done. So that's pretty good for that. So anyway, this whole idea of dynamic symmetry, I was introduced by a period of time in my life when I actually went looking for an art guru. Strangely enough, I found him, a man named Damien down in Bisbee, Arizona. So anyway, I asked him, so I said, well, what kind of advice can you give me? And this is the first time I met him. It was a long story, how I got there and everything. I'll share that in another session maybe. But he said, Warren, you have to get a book and study it before I can teach you anything more. Fundamentals. And he said that book is called The Elements of Dynamic Symmetry. The author is J. Hambidge, and it's, I think, from 1943. You can look it up. And I went back to California, where I was living at the time, from Arizona, and I found a copy of this book, an old copy, and I read it. It's amazing, and what it talks about is the concept of dynamic symmetry. I'm just going to give you a quick little sidebar on that, just because I think some of the audience members could be interested in this. Make sure I put that brush in the water so it doesn't dry up and become one of my tangleweed brushes. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you that little treatise on dynamic symmetry. Very quick, very brief. So, dynamic symmetry is a lot of concepts, but one of the concepts is starting with, there is a point in a line segment, and we'll just call this line segment AB to be kind of geometrical about it. There is a point, and you know what, that's not coming up on this particular video cam. Did I tell you my video camera failed this morning? I was getting ready to start the show. Yeah, my webcam failed. Okay, let's see how that comes up on the, yeah, there we go. So a line segment, call it AB, can be divided at a point in such a way that it will produce mathematically the most aesthetically pleasing proportion. So you could start doing this randomly. You could say maybe right in the middle would be a good choice. That would be called what we call symmetrical design or symmetry. But what we're going to talk about is the ability to create a point in any dimension, for example, the dimensions of a canvas, that is such a point that the smaller portion is to the larger as the larger is to the whole. We'll call that point C. Can you all see that? All right, getting some notes that the camera is blurred around the edges, and that is my webcam that I just went into the backup mode. So we'll fix that next week. But I do want to point out though that I have this dynamically symmetrical proportion. It can be expressed as the smaller is to the larger as the larger is to the whole. So here's that equation. So the smaller is CB, in this case, is to the larger, which is AC, as the larger AC is to the whole AB. For math buffs out there, you can actually use the quadratic formula to solve that, and you'll find that you arrive at a very interesting number, which is 1.618. I know it to quite a few significant digits, but that's the main one. But 0.3398889. Okay, that's called the golden mean, the golden section, and many artists from a couple thousand years ago, as long as history goes back, have used that proportion in their art. But in any event, I digress to just share a little bit about that, because my canvases are almost always constructed with that in mind. So in this case, the smaller portion is here, and that's the 0.618. The 1.618 is this, and you'll see that I use that as design for the structure of the painting. All right, people are actually feeling smarter already. I'm glad I could do some good in the world, which brings me to another point today. I might pontificate a little bit on some things, philosophy and whatnot, but that's kind of my one of the things that I enjoy doing is sharing ideas and thoughts with people. And yeah, there's another risk in this. You might actually learn something, you could become inspired, and you could actually become smarter. So let's continue with the painting. I got my little flora in there. Now, I promised to show you guys some new techniques. It's so new, I think I might share it with you, but I'll have my patent attorney see if there's anything that can be patented. And what I wanted to do is come up with a way to produce more random looking imagery rather than like real consciously designed stuff, which could take forever with some of the detail that you see in things like brush and cacti and rocks and such. So let me tell you my new little secret weapons here. One of them, Brillo pad. This one is steel, and it's got, of course, the steel wool little wrappings and pop out here and there. In fact, I'm going to use it cut and kind of twisted. And I also picked up one. It's made out of plastic. Same idea. It's just kind of a Brillo pad type of deal. Scrubber. Here, let me just show you. I still have one unopened. This one's called a Scotch-Brite non-scratch scrubber. Okay, now why am I showing you this crazy stuff? Well, it's pretty cool, pretty darn cool. First, you mix some paint on your palette, like I've already done, but I'll do a little bit more to show you this. I've got this Payne's gray and white, and I got a little kind of a little dish of it here, and it's really neat. I just make enough I got to get enough in my little well there to pick up on one of these new technique here. So then I took, for example, this, and I dip it into the well of pigment. And you'll see that now. I wanted to kind of randomize some of the effects, in this case of little specks on a rock over here. And look at this. I couldn't possibly just sit here. It'd take me days to do this if I was trying to do this with, look at that. Dabbing it in there. Look at that. Nice, and I'm really pleased with that. Cool. I know you can't probably see that detail with my webcam today, but we'll zoom in on another session and show you all of this. In any event, I'm going to use this to create some more randomized patterns back there along the middle ground. Now, because it's such an experimental technique, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of testing on that before I start ruining my painting. And I keep these little booklets of, notes and things, and one of them is the ability to do a brush testing. Now, I don't know if you could really call that a brush. It's really not. It is a Scotch-Brite. But you see here, what I'm doing is I'm just seeing how it would look if I just started applying some of my random stuff in here, and I'm already liking it. That's exactly the kind of thing I wanted to do. So right across in here, without any further ado, I'm going to start putting in some of that stuff there. Oh yeah. Because back here in the farther parts of my painting, I know there's stuff going on I haven't added, and I'm going to let the laws of randomity take over here and put some stuff in there. I like it. I like it. Now that was kind of that burnt umber, but I'm going to go now. Same idea, and I'm going to go into more of a gray mode here to give it a little bit of different effect. Again, this time we'll use the steel wool part of it. Let's just see what happens with that. Okay, that's a good one. Nice. Boy, this is so experimental that I'm going crazy with excitement. Cross in there. Right there. Push real hard. Nice. Whew. I'm liking that. Wow. Okay. I'm going to mix a little more. In this case, I'm going to just start adding a little bit of almost that. Payne's gray looks black from a distance, but it's really not. Put in a little bit of dark areas here, a little bit darker with my new technique. And over in here, and then here, put some more of those. Wow, wow, wow. Now isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? Holy moly, I'm having fun here. Okay, keep it up. Alright. Hey Melissa, welcome to the painting channel. If you're just joining, working on one inspired by a recent trip in February to Joshua Tree National Monument. Hiked around there, amazing place. There's this really, one of my favorite little side trips, there's lots of hikes you could take, is what they call Hidden Canyon. According to legend, this canyon, which is very hidden, I mean there's one little crack between the rocks you go through to get into it, and it's amazing. And apparently, according to legend and history, it's where Arizona cattle rustlers used to come and hide their cattle. And these little canyons back in here, so cool to see that kind of stuff and walk around in it. It was really quite amazing. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and put more of this gray. So we did brown, super dark gray, and now I'm just going to put in little area of mid-gray here, and I'm going to have a little world of gray popping out over here. And these are like, there's this wiry plant. Ooh, I'm liking this so much. Holy cow, I'm getting excited about this painting. These little plants are strange. They look dead, but they're not. They're alive. And I think, without getting too carried away, I definitely got them on the track here. And this plant, I have to fill in some of this before I can work on my yucca a little bit more. Woo-hoo. Enjoying it. Again, just got this Scotch-Brite pad. Wow, what a technique. I'll check with my patent attorney. Maybe there's a process patent. I don't know. This isn't really about making money, but I'm sure enjoying this is fun. Okay, let me just step back and take a look at this. And definitely feel free to chat. I've had people tell me, Warren, you just destroyed the painting, and sometimes you can't fix it. I've had people say, this is my favorite so far, and I just, love the feedback. In fact, I often will paint something based on an audience member suggestion, like we did a waterfall, somebody said desert sunset, and we've done all kinds of these things, man. We've done a lot of them. I'll just show you a couple while I'm thinking about it. Here's one that was from the same trip. This one was inspired by a trip down to Palm Springs, and this is a golf course with some mountains in the background. Pretty fun. That was awesome. I'll show you another. I'm on the desert period here, desert mode. Here's one, that sunset we were talking about. Pretty cool. This one kind of reminded me as I painted it, and I actually intentionally wanted it to be kind of like images invoked by an author called a man named Carlos Castaneda. Look him up. Fantastic stuff. I'll just put that one over here for now. Okay. Let me look at this painting. Sometimes you got to just take a moment and think about your painting, what you're going to do with it. Set this one over here. Working on a bigger studio, by the way. My studio is filling up with paintings. Like I said, I think I've done 13 paintings in the last 14 weeks. A lot of fun. And again, thank you all for joining me. So the question about one of these flora. If you don't know, and not trying to get you too smart, but flora and fauna, what does that mean? Latin, flora or plant life. Fauna, animal life. So I've got mostly flora, no animals yet. Again, watch for those surprises when I finish a painting. This is a yucca, very nice cacti. Sometimes they have big spears sticking out of them, but I thought it would be a little too confusing. By the way, I'm working a little bit from a photo I took down in Joshua Tree there, right? You can see that photo on the left, another one of my little inventions where I, by the way, I get inspired from a lot of real life trips and places I go, things I do. Sometimes it's just stuff out of my mind, but really the point is what inspires you. And if you were to take up art, if you're not yet an artist, my granddaughter Marigold Starr Olson asked her mother, who shared this with me. She asked, "Does art have to be perfect, Mom?" And then they texted me that question, and I thought about this for a while, and the answer I came up with is absolutely not. Art is just an expression of your feelings, of your thoughts, of your experiences. You can't do anything wrong in art. It's not about being perfect or making it look like a photograph. It's about having fun, enjoying your life, and expressing it through your art. So getting ready to get into another phase here. And that is going to be working on those cacti. In fact, that yucca a little bit more. So for that, I've prepared a small palette of my yucca colors. Where is it? I know I had it around here somewhere. I usually have 2, maybe 3 palettes that I'm working at any given time, just so I don't cross the streams, which means, if you start mixing too many colors together, you end up with kind of mud. Don't want that. So I'm going to go into my green palette, green, a little bit of blue, you'll see why. And I'm going to create some of my yucca mixture, and that's going to consist of, this is called Hooker's Green. Mix it right in here. Nice. I'm going to add just a touch of Naples Yellow, and maybe gradate that a little bit. I'm pre-gradating on my palette. In other words, if you're mixing colors, you can gradate a single color. And remember I talked about these little swatches. This is my sketchbook. You can see that that's burnt umber and yellow. This is just raw sienna and white, burnt umber and white. And what I'm doing right now is I'll create a little swatch for you to show you that. I'm creating Hooker's Green, Naples Yellow and white. So I would just say, okay, top of it would be pretty pure Hooker's Green. It's just kind of a dark, naturey green, by the way. And then I just mix that with a little bit of white. And then the bottom part, that pre-gradation, has some Naples Yellow in it. Maybe I want to see what happens if I kind of brush them together a little. Yeah, that is absolutely the idea. See that? That is a swatch, or I call it that. In any case, what we're going to do now is we're going to use that. I am going in fast and hard on the cactus here. Now I always have a little Payne's gray to do what I call neutralizing the effect of some of these colors. They always seem more bright and vivid when they're on your canvas, which isn't a bad thing, but nature rarely has pure color, pure, pigments in it. Not that you have to be like nature, but I do. I like doing it. So I'm going to go in here. I'm doing some enhancements here. I already have my basic structure, but I wanted to add a little bit of light and dark. I took in a very thin, long brush, keep it plenty wet. I can see my painting is a little out of focus again. I'm going to tell me if the audience sees that change in focus and whether it helped or not. Okay, I'm trying to focus it. There we go. I think that's good, at least from my monitor. All right. Well, one of my questions from a member of the audience today is, what is my favorite color of green? That sounds like a brilliant question. Well, I'm using one called Hooker's Green. It happens to be one of my 3 favorite greens. Sorry if I can't give you like a favorite. Depends on the painting and such. Hooker's Green is nice for, I think, a lot of nature painting. So I'm going to just keep showing you some more of this Hooker's Green and white. That's what I'm on right now. I want one that goes clear the heck up here. What? Yeah, in fact, I'm liking this. This can get even bigger. I'm going to go right up there. Whoa, big old giant one up here. See what I'm doing? I'm just sort of inventing as I go what I want to see, but I have a vision in my mind's eye, and I want this yucca to be bigger, basically, bigger. Right over the top of that with another gigantic yucca. Oh man, that looks good. Darn it, Warren, you're good. Anyway, we're doing Hooker's Green and white for my yucca. And hey, shout out on chat there if you've ever been to Joshua Tree, anyone. And tell me a little bit about it if you want to chat about that, because I tell you what, I'm still inspired. And this was 6-7 weeks ago I was there. Wow, it's just like in my mind. Sometimes I dream about it. I love that place. That's why I'm painting it, to relive some of that and to have kind of a visual record of things that I've really enjoyed in my life. And not only does it help me, this is cool, I'm enjoying it again, right? That was 6 weeks ago. I'm still getting a kick out of that trip. Wow. A lot of mileage on that trip. I mean, that's a lot of value. In fact, I can still be digging it, man. Yeah, okay. I'm going big. Go big or go home, they said somewhere along the line, and that's what I'm doing here. These are some big old yucca leaves. I guess they are a leaf on a cactus. What is that called? A leaf? If you know. If you're some kind of biologist or right there. Boom. Another good one. We're talking major growth development here in this painting. Now see how I had to paint that little brushy, wiry brush? I'm going to have to look at what that flora is, that wiry, silly little wiry plant. Okay, this one's going to go crosswise, and here's one that just decided to take a route and go downtown over to the right. Now I got enough of that light, almost. Remember, you're the boss in your own paintings. It's your world. You say when it's enough or not enough. You just do what you want. That's the fun of it all. Maybe I want a little bit of squirrely action right there. Now I get the idea. Okay, cool. I'm going to put a little bit of corresponding dark Hooker's Green simply by adding Payne's gray. And so in my swatch, I guess I could do another little version of that that's going to go very, very dark gray. Because I want to see some of these places, there's a little bit of shadow from other leaves. And there's always the other side of the thing. Without darkness, you couldn't appreciate light. That's a little philosophical thing there for you. Without darkness, you couldn't appreciate light. Without rain, you can't really appreciate the sunshine. In fact, any of you know in the audience today how you know it's summer in Seattle? If you know this one, just go ahead. Shout it out. Yeah, how do you know when it's summer in Seattle? The rain gets warmer. Right now, we're not in Seattle. We're in our world of the desert. And I'm adding dark to my light. I'm creating more of a, gives me a little visual depth. And when I get a new webcam, which I promised to do, since my old one broke down today, strange, Logitech. I'm not sure what brand I'm going to get on my new one, but it's going to have the ability to zoom. I've shown you my manual zoom methods, but I'm going to, again, another little tip. You can use your pinky to help steady the hand if you need it. I'm going to do that right here because I want to add darks to some of these yucca spears. No, the spears are the other thing. Yucca leaves, we'll call them. Nice. And I don't always say that. Sometimes I go, oh crap, I just ruined the painting. But not today. We are on a roll. Creating a new painting. By the way, I encourage anyone that stumbles across my program here to bring your paints next Sunday, and if you didn't already today, paint along. I would be delighted to share other people's work on this channel. Who knows what could happen? Great riches could be in store. Creative experiences galore. Minimum, you'll have fun. Like I'm having right now. Just one of those times where I'm thinking can't imagine anything I'd rather be doing, frankly. Painting to me is fun and relaxing. And let me think. That's really, before I go too far, that could be it. All right. Okay. I have another question. It's a crazy question. From one of the members of my audience today. Have I ever smoked yucca? I don't know if the question was intended to say, like, you know, how you smoke salmon or something. Have I ever tried that and eaten it? Or have I ever smoked it? That's so funny. Cracking me up, man. Hilarious question there. Oop, I'm gonna put a few little like shadows from other yucca leaves coming in. That's so funny. Have I ever smoked yucca? The answer to that is no. Never smoked yucca. That's so funny. I don't censor anything. I haven't yet. Let's just put it that way. Whatever is on your mind in these chat programs. Okay, got to take a look at where we're at. Now, I've never smoked yucca. No. That's a funny question. We get to do some fun stuff. Oh, I got to work on my little yucca here a little bit. Same idea. Add just a little more detail. I think I'm going to make him a little bigger too. And you know what? I'm going to tone down the green for this one as we recede into the distance. Colors aren't as vivid as you go back into the distance. I don't know if you knew that. They are not quite as vivid as if they're in the foreground. Nope. It's my theory and I'm sticking to it. Alright. That one's got some branches that are going way the heck out there. A little higher in the air. He's trying to keep up with his mate. Cousin over here in the front, getting all the glory. This little yucca is like he says, the yucca that can. He says, I think I can. This yucca is growing as we speak. And I just gonna stop on that one right there. But while I'm into this whole yucca mode, yuck. Okay, laughing at my own little jokes here. I'm gonna put another little yucca right here because I just believe it really wants to be there. Yep, for sure. I'm going to put another one right here. Notice how they get smaller as they go into the distance. Another one right there. We haven't even got to the fun part. There's two really, I mean, we've had some fun for sure, but we haven't got to the good part yet. Let me tell you what the good parts are going to be. If you're having fun now, buckle your seat belts. Make sure your tray table is in the full upright position and be ready for this because we're going to go crazy and we're going to do the rest of the Joshua tree blossoms or whatever the heck you call them. We're going to work on this rock over here and we're going to put more of our gray brush. It's going to be awesome. We're just like almost so close to doing it. But now, let me just finish these little yuccas I started. And we are going to finish this painting today. And it's going to be awesome. Power of intention, right? Power of intention. Okay, little yucca here, little yuck there. Here a yucca, there a yucca. Okie dokie. Liking it. This one's got to have a little more shadows because of the sun, by the way. It's good in painting, if you're on planet Earth anyway, which has one sun, to have to develop a direction of light in your painting. In this case, it's from the right coming down here. And about there. That's why over in some of these left-hand sides of objects, they have more darkness because they're in the shadows. So we're about ready to start on another phase here. Okay, grab your snacks, get your pizza and popcorn ready because you do not want to miss this next part here. You do not want to miss this next part. It's going to be freaking fun. And we're getting ready to get into that. So if you need a 30-second intermission while I finish these little yucca plants, you go ahead and grab it. Okay. So while you're doing that, I am seeing people are getting ready for this. Good. You need to be. Before I get into that, I am going to do, as I talked about shadows, I am going to go in here and work a little bit on my Joshua tree. This is part of the fun part, by the way. So right now we're going to go in and we're going to create some light on these trees. Left hand is going to have a lot more light and it's going to bend around the base of this tree and almost light the whole thing up. The sun is shining on it. This is one happy tree. Okay, I finally said it. I vowed. Somebody asked me when I was getting ready to start this and planning this thing called the Live Painting Channel. Oh, is it going to be like Bob Ross, they asked. I said, hopefully not. Although Bob Ross, that was one of the inspiring artists, prolific artists. I read somewhere he did like 38,000 paintings in his career. Oh my gosh. Anyway, you may know he talks about happy trees. I've never said it, but I did right there. Happy tree. Okay, we got ourselves a little happy tree here going on. Okay, I said it. But I really want to get that zoom so I can show you some of the detail we're doing right now. And I also, just in general, want to lighten up the mood a little bit with some light on the trees. Sure, and all I'm doing here is I'm taking a little bit of my really cheap burnt umber and the basics tube, a little bit of white, and that's about it. I'm creating these highlights on my trees over here. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Here we go into some really fun stuff. One second. Okay, that one has some light on it. That one has some light on it. This one has light on it. This one has a band of light pulling all the way around that part. Okay, I'm gonna just see if this stupid webcam that I got, my backup webcam. Speaking of which, you know, it's always good to have a main webcam and a backup webcam. Because today, had I not had this backup, we wouldn't be holding the show today. So I had this backup webcam. It reminds me of a story, and I know everybody's just anxious to see my big, exciting thing we're going to be doing. It reminds me of a story, though. We used to have a Cocker Spaniel named Rags. Members of my family fondly remember Rags, but you know, at some point we decided, you know, it would probably be good to have a backup dog, so we ended up with a main dog and a backup dog. And the reason it became interesting, and it's kind of congruent with my story here, is that you see, like my webcam, your main dog could fail, and I had a hot swap dog to replace the main dog with, same size and weight, so we basically didn't have any dogless period, because we had a main dog and our backup dog. I don't know if you found that as funny as I do. I always laugh at my own jokes. Ha ha ha. Okay, anyway, let's go. Let's go. Okay. Well, I promised to have fun with this. I'm going crazy now with my this. We're going to put the wire brush in front of this more. Then we're going to have a lot of fun working on the rocks and the shadows. Then to culminate this, we're going to put the highlights of the blossoming Joshua tree. Can't wait. I have to add a little bit of pigment here. Ran out. Gotta have my plenty of pigment, which at the moment I'm going to stick with Payne's gray and white. Yep. Actually, try that. Okay, I'll be right with the members of the anxious audience momentarily here. Can't wait to get going on this next thing. Neither can I, frankly. Okay. This is where the experimental live nature of the program comes in. Alright, and other than a real quick splotch test over here, we're just going to dive in and start doing my brushless brush technique over here. Alright, here's what it is. I got all this gray matter that I want to start showing up over here. We're just going to use this massive, quick, fantastico technique that I've developed using the Brillo pad. It's freaking awesome though. Create all this wiry looking, wiry, see? It's a Brillo pad, it's all wiry. Right in there, just super duper dark. Yeah, man. That is groundbreaking artistic shit right here. Stuff right here. It is freaking groundbreaking. Let me tell you. There's my wiriness. Got some of that going on over here as well. And right in here. My canvas is getting all beat up from this, but that is freaking awesome. Alright. Alright, I am so delighted to have tried a new technique on this live painting channel, and I'm declaring it a success for now. Oh, correction from someone who knows. The main dog was Rags, the backup dog was Lacey, but it was a hot swap. There's more to that story, but I'll leave it for another session here. Alright, move this over here. And then I'm going to see if we can zoom a bit. You have to bear with me while I do a manual zoom on this, and then we're going to work on the boulder. Yeah. Story of Rags and Lacey. Main dog and backup dog. So what I'm doing, hopefully I won't destroy the entire studio setup here. Bear with me a second while I get the focus in on this. I'll show you what we've been doing here. I'm going to refocus this. Alright, here's what we've been doing. See that? And this new technique down here. There it is. Alright. Sweet. Sweet pickles. Alright. Now, two things more to go on this painting. This painting could run just slight over our usual schedule with all my technical webcam issues and stuff. But here we go. Alright. Let's do it. Yeah, Hot Swap. That would be a good name. Hot Swap. Okay. Next dog is going to be named Hot Swap. You just watch. Now, going to work on the boulder. The boulder is going to be really fun. And what I need to do now is warm it up a bit. It's almost white. Actually, it looks white from where you are, I'm sure, but it's not quite white. Let's grab my warm palette. Still warm. And I'm going to warm it up a bit. Really just by adding some of that umberness. You know, mixing the paint is part of the fun. Anyway. Okay, now that's a little too dark. Ooh. Didn't even do a test on that. Okay. Another technique, I know people love my techniques and stuff that I share. This one utilizes a guitar capo clip for my painting the maximum amount of pigment out of a tube. Patented. Don't even try it without licensing it from me. Alright. Grab another brush because I just felt like it. I'm going to lighten that little boulder up a bit. Quite a bit. A lot. Okay. Actually, the pigment. Okay. Yeah, that's almost exactly what I wanted. So it's going to be fairly light up in this top section. It's going to get a little darker down in this part. Not that dark. But what's going to be cool, as you'll see here in a minute, and I mean cooler than a cucumber, is how the shadows work. Okay, there's my boulder. It's already got a little bit of shadowing, but here, this is going to be like mind-boggling. Prepare to blow your mind. Mind-blowing alert. Okay. I'm going to issue another warning when I start painting the shadows here. You might have to consult with your physician afterwards because your mind could be a smoking crater. It's going to be so good. You're going to be so mind blown, but here we go. Yep. You heard it. Smoking crater. What we're going to do, we're going to go in, we're going to paint our shadows using what colors? You think? Anybody in the audience want to guess? What color my shadows are going to be, what pigments I'm going to use. Alright. Guesses yet. Just let it be a surprise. We're going to use ultramarine blue, Payne's gray, and white. Wait, shadows are always black. No, not at all. Shadows often contain a lot of blue and purple and stuff in them. Here we go. And this rock bends like this. So here's the idea. I'm just going to, one little test. Oh yeah, that's it. So we're going to start putting in our shadows from these yucca branches. It's gonna, you'll see. This is where your mind could be blown. You're going to see what happens to these shadows. They're going to be bending to help form the shape of the rock. Yeah, that is beautiful. The shadows are bending along that part of the rock. Some of them aren't quite as behaved. Oh yeah, those shadows starting to appear over there. Pretty nice. Yeah, a little deeper blue yet. And they're all going to be bending to help us see the form of that rock as it drops off here. I'm just having a ball here. I don't know about you in the audience today, but could be the best session of the live painting channel ever. And the cool is, you're part of it. It's a cool thing. We've covered so much ground today, new techniques, taking risks, getting some rewards. Weren't punished too much today for my risks, but that happens too. And we're doing some shadows on the rock here. They're going to start blending in to the shadows underneath the yucca plant, because that's where they originated. Shadows, what is a shadow? Shadow is lack of light. Shadow is opposite of light. It's where the light isn't. But in will sneak a little bit of light into the shadow, and thus they're never really black or even gray. They're colors in them. Lots of blues, sometimes purples. Those are the shadows on the rock. And if your mind isn't blown from that, then it sucks to be you. Okay. Alright. Alright. This one is going to stretch a little even farther over here. There's even more of a bend in the rock. This rock is not happy, by the way. This rock is, it's just pretty much saying, I'm just a freaking rock and all you guys are plants. I wish I was a plant. Rock can never grow. They can only get smaller over time. So sometimes rocks get a little frustrated for that reason. There we go. And we're going to start seeing some of those shadows and how they came from their origins. Over here. That's going to be freaking awesome. Yep. Alright, now what? Okay. Whoop. That is sweet. So sweet. Okay, now we are going into final phase. I'm not too far off my normal time. You know, I've produced one of these paintings. Takes between 1 to 2 hours of painting time. Maybe a little more, sometimes a little less. 1 to 2 hours. This is probably going on hour number 2 with this one. It's evolved a lot. But here we go. Final deal. We're going in and we're going to do the Joshua tree blossoms. Now, I've really been struggling with this because, frankly, it's a very important thing. And I just feel like I could blow it. So I have a little bit of fear going on with this, but it's normal in art. It's normal to have a little fear. You just have to deal with it. But you know, I've come to learn that courage is not the lack of fear. Courage is not the lack of fear. Courage is the willingness to move forward even with fear. So let's do that right now. We're going to go in, we're going to go like, what is he doing? I'm not even going to do a test patch. I'm just going to start putting. Oh, by the way, I'm using an all rough hand brush. See that? One of my favorite techniques for this sort of thing. And we're gonna start creating. My fingerprint created a nice blob. I like it though. No accidents in art. You can keep them. They're great. Okay, and that one's got a great big Joshua tree thing going on. I don't know what these are called, but it's the most amazing. It's like a prehistoric looking tree. Never seen anything like it. And these wonderful sort of like palm frond blossomy things that are your leaves up there. Awesome. Another spot of my painting. That could have to be a bird later. Alright, let's keep going. This is so fun. I do need to do one little thing here. Alright. Alright, have courage, my man. Have courage. We certainly got that going on for us today. These are my Joshua tree leaf blossom thingamajiggers. And that's so freaking fun. Cheap way to have fun. Your own paintings. Alright, and now you're going to see some fun and amazing stuff culminate here as we finish this painting. I'm going to have to do my same sort of thing down here. These little guys that are farther in the distance. But it's just sort of impressions of those things at this point. And I'll zoom in and show you what we've been doing here in just a moment. Okie not quite yet. We are going to now put my final highlights on this thing, on this painting, and we're going to very quickly soon call it good. Key thing in art, know when to stop. Seriously, it's such an important thing. Probably my biggest challenge in painting is overpainting. Just can't stop tweaking with it sometimes, and the nice thing about painting is sometimes just the spontaneity of it. Adding some, well, it's not bright yellow, it's just Naples yellow. It's kind of a subdued yellow. Boy, here it sure looks bright. And they're going to have a little radial sort of thing. Yep. Impressions. Okay. Yeah. We nailed it today. Quick zoom in. We'll call it a good wrap for today. Zoom in. See what we have created today. Been working on the Joshua trees. Nice. Shadows. Okay. Can you tell this is live? Yeah, you can. Alright. One more thing on this painting. We're going to sign it right now. I'll sign this painting. I'm going to sign it right there. I have to pick my signing color. And that's going to be right here. It's always fun to finish a painting. Culmination of a lot of fun, and I wouldn't call it hard work, but fun. Get my painting signature going on here. signature pigment. Okay. You got her. I'm going to sign it right here. Mixed in with all my fun little wiry brush things. It was part of the fun of this painting, which was creating a whole new technique using a Brillo pad. Can you believe it's 2019? Holy guacamole. And there we have it. Alright, that wraps for today. So thank you all for joining today's 14th session of the Live Painting channel. My name is Warren Stokes, your host, and I'm delighted to do this every Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. I'm going to post some contact information, and feel free to reach out. If you ever want to collaborate, get in touch for any reason, happy to do it. Thanks. Have a great day.